This show is presented by the 323 Network. You can watch all your favorite 323 friends and shows on the 323 Network YouTube channel, follow us on all social media platforms at 323Reid, and support us as we continue to grow at patreon.com/323Reid. That's 323REID.
I don't like that. I feel weird with Dad not being here.
The children are being left home alone. Welcome to the 323. Is that low enough?
Yeah, you do it and then I do it. You know what, Zoo? I challenge you to a read off at this point. Let's see, since Dad's not with us right now, who can do the better read intro?
Welcome to another edition of the 323. I'm not your host. I'm not Reid Murphy, but I got you, didn't I?
I thought you were about to go to the animation deliberation intro for a very slight second.
I mean, I can't sing right now, but
it's okay.
That one is definitely a lot more like high energy.
All right, let me see if I can get it.
Like if I did this AD style, I think it would be like, welcome back to another episode of 323 with Reid Murphy. He's not here today, so I'm your host, Zuhair Ali, and joining me is this white guy, Scott.
Hi. I feel like if we isolated your audio with what you just did and just slowed the tempo down a little bit, it probably could be an exact match for Reid.
Welcome back to another episode of 323 with Reid Murphy.
Yeah, Reid just has more like breaks. It's like building up. It's like, I'm your host, Reid Murphy.
Well, it's like, I'm going to give it you know what? I'm going to give it a go now. Now you're making me feel bad about myself because I know I naturally talk fast and I have a very nasally voice. So it's going to be very interesting to see if I can get down to Reid speed, but I'll try. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 323 and I am your host, Scott Ellia, not Reid Murphy. Joined today by the Curry Puff himself, the Stay Curry Puff Marshmallow Man, Zuhair Ali. How you doing, Zoo?
I hate how well that was.
Oh, Zoo, there's more coaching noise going on right now in the NFL. Pete Carroll is officially out as the head coach in Seattle and becoming an advisor after 15 years. And of course, in normal NFL fashion, this is all being overshadowed by another two recent retirees in both the NFL and in the NCAA college football world. But before we move on to those two, do you feel this is a good move for Pete? Or do you think it's just one way he's going to ease into just retirement?
I think it is because he took a shot in the dark and seeing if like the Geno Drew Lock experiment was really going to be the answer to move forward. And while they had a really great season last year and they were pretty competitive this year, it just wasn't what they were looking for. And I don't think he wants to do another rebuild in that short amount of time. I mean, you know, he does have a family. He is getting up there in age and stuff. And it's just, that's a very dynamic division. It's very difficult to play with. It's very difficult to scheme around. So it makes sense that he's just kind of like, man, I don't want to do a quarterback hunt again. I don't want to do this rebuild again. I'm just going to advise and watch from the booth and, you know, chew my gum up there in peace and still be part of the organization, still be part of this fan base, but not necessarily be responsible for the direction of the team.
Right. And I mean, from the outside looking in, you know, I know very little about the Seattle Seahawks fan base in the locker room there, but it seems like he's like a player's coach, like the quintessential player's coach. Like all the players love him. I think keeping him in that kind of advisory role would be really a smart move. And, you know, it's still a commending resume that he's built out there in Seattle. He's been there for like 14 years. I think this was his 14th season. He's only been sub 500 3 times. 2 of which being his first 2 seasons there in Seattle, and then following up with a Super Bowl victory in 2013, and then going back to the Super Bowl the next year in 2014, but eventually losing to the New England Patriots. And speaking about the New England Patriots, we got Bill Belichick parting ways after 24 seasons, 6 Super Bowls, 9 Super Bowl appearances. Which to you is the most shocking and game-changing? Which one do you think will be the hardest to replace and face the biggest shadow? Would it be like Bill Belichick? Or would be Pete Carroll there in Seattle?
I think Pete Carroll's going to be harder to replace. And I think that was more shocking as well, because with the way that the Patriots season has been going the last couple of years, like people have been kind of calling it and anticipating it. But I think everybody was just impressed with how well Seattle was doing with Geno Smith and still making good draft picks and still having a competent defense. So I think Pete Carroll was definitely the most shocking one. Bill Belichick, there's just been so much talk about it. Like when it finally happened, it was just like, okay, I saw that coming. It was good that they like mutually parted ways and had a press conference and were all nice to each other. And Kraft really wanted to kiss Bill, but he had a cold. So like, I don't know if you saw that interview, but it was just kind of like, this is such a cringy.
I saw bits and pieces, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a team that's just like in dire need of a rebuild. Cam Newton didn't work out. Mac Jones didn't work out. Bailey Zappi didn't work out. Like their defense is great. He's a defensive minded coach, but the ball was just not rolling. And same issue. AFC East just has so many powerhouses. Like the Jets definitely just are. I really feel like they are a quarterback and an offensive line away. In terms of just the way that they operate and move and stuff, it was just a setback. But the Patriots just fell off way too far, and they need fresh blood.
Right. I'm right there with you. I think the New England job is going to be more of a rebuild than in Seattle at this point. And, after 24, right. I mean, and you could, whoever ends up taking that job, whether it's Jared Mayo takes over or Mike Vrabel just got canned in Tennessee, maybe he goes and returns back to New England and Robert Kraft gets another Patriot blue blood in there to kind of take over. Cause he's not a bad coach. I think he just got a really shit end deal there in Tennessee after, trading away nearly every damn asset and having his hands tied as far as, the Malik Willis draft and Will Levis getting drafted. And then, Derrick Henry's on his way out the door. Taller. Right. It's just like he can only do so much, but I feel like Robert Kraft would give him a little bit more leeway. And you're right. I think the writing was on the door, especially after that last Super Bowl victory in 2018. They followed it up with a really impressive 12-4 record after that. But after that season, 2020, 7-9, and then from then on out, 10-7, 8-9, and 4-13. At this point, it's probably the smartest thing to do because there's no way that you could tarnish a reputation of a Bill Belichick, 6-time Super Bowl winning head coach. But it definitely comes to a point like, okay, let's stop the bleeding now. Maybe he goes into a new job. Maybe he goes to Washington. I know a lot of people are trying to point to that direction. I highly doubt that because if I'm Bill Belichick and I'm trying to coach another season, especially being that defensive-minded coach, I need to have an established defense. I need to have a little bit more pieces to the puzzle because I'm going to want to make a Super Bowl push. Is there any team that you could see him going to?
I think the Chargers might be kind of the most likely for him. Just in terms of, I think he wants to go back to California. They already have a lot of weapons in place. It's just a matter of like utilizing it properly. The same could kind of go for Atlanta. They had a decent defense last year, and we already talked about how stacked they are on like first round pick weapons, and they are kind of a quarterback away from at least being competitive. There's not too much going on in the South right now either. So I think those would kind of be the two best bets from him. And with Mike Vrabel leaving Tennessee, I was listening to Commanders Declassified, and they were talking about how Jim Harbaugh would actually be a good pick for Tennessee.
Ooh.
With the pick of 3 quarterbacks and just kind of needing offensive weapons to start pushing the...
Well, and it's funny that you bring up Tennessee because I fell down a rabbit hole after Belichick announced that you were having the mutual parting of the ways, and someone went through this whole conspiracy theory about how Tom Brady almost came out of retirement and he was getting enticed to join Mike Vrabel there in Tennessee and it ended up not happening. Mm-hmm. Do you think there's a chance in the world where Bill Belichick takes over in Tennessee and entices Tom Brady to come back for one more season? They just reunite there in Nashville for one more season?
I don't know, because I feel like a big part of Belichick leaving Patriots is the longer that he's there and having bad seasons, the longer he has a tarnished legacy of the only reason he was good was because of Brady. Like that's forever going to haunt him. And I feel like if he goes through another rebuild and he has, 2 or 3 more bad seasons, then that's just going to keep coming up. What was he without Brady? What was he without Brady? What was he without Brady? So I think he's trying to get away from that so that he can actually like retire on a good note with a reputation of himself and not one with just him tied to Brady.
Right. And there's one team that I feel that could be a surprise pickup if everything goes to plan how I feel like it's going to go to plan, and that's the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh. I thought you were the Raiders.
No. If the Raiders do not sign Antonio Pierce, they are the dumbest organization in. I've already felt that way about them, anyways. But they need to re-sign him and
Was
just
it
give
the
him to a
Titans that
long-term deal.
requested an interview with them today with
I
Pierce?
believe so.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, I could see a world now that Jerry Jones, the Sith Lord himself, knows that Bill Belichick is out there. And if Mike McCarthy were to drop the game in the McCarthy Bowl against the Packers this coming weekend, will give him enough justification to get rid of Mike McCarthy and try to sign Bill Belichick. Because could you imagine Bill Belichick down there in Dallas with the offense that's already established, the stellar defense that's there, and try to get one more Super Bowl push before he finally hangs it up 100%?
That would be interesting. And here's the big question that comes to my mind when you say that. The rumor mill right now is that if McCarthy has a bad postseason, he gets fired and Dan Quinn potentially gets elevated. And there's a lot of interview requests for Dan Quinn. Does he stay if Belichick gets signed on?
If I'm Dan Quinn, I stay on, because are you going to pass up a chance to learn under probably the greatest head coach of any sport across the country?
But he's a very controlling, defensive-minded coach too. So what if Dan Quinn's obviously doing something right in Dallas in terms of their defense.
Right.
So what if he starts intervening and that actually takes a drop in the way the defense plays?
Well, I think Dan Quinn, with him being such a defensive-minded coach and all the positions that are open up right now, need a coach like that, especially in Washington and then even in Seattle. I could see Dan Quinn going back to Seattle at this point.
That could be interesting.
I actually would really like that. And to stay on the same topic of, potential hires and landing spots and things like that, I know you're not as well versed in college football, but the greatest college football coach to ever be in the game, Nick Saban, recently retired from Alabama after 17 seasons and 6 national championships. Now, Reid asked me specifically, did I think the NIL era and challenge of adapting caused this? And I really do. I think you're seeing a lot of this, not only in the NCAA, but even in the NFL, where a lot of these, I hate to say a slur, but boomer coaches are starting to get their way out and getting forced out because the old guard's changing, the new young guns are coming in and they're adapting a lot faster. And I think now that he retired, the conspiracy theorist in me is starting to believe that the college football playoff committee already knew that he was going to be retiring and gave him that last shot and got him into the college football playoff simply because he was not going to be returning after the season. There's been a lot of names kind of tied to it. I know Lane Kiffin, who was once an assistant head coach underneath Nick Saban, I know he's tied to it. Dan Lanning, the head coach in Oregon, he's already came out stating that he is not leaving Oregon. Steve Sarkisian, the head coach from Texas. Texas is joining the SEC next year, but there's a lot more money to throw around in Texas. I don't see him going. This is something that I feel is going to be, they probably already know who it is and they have it kind of in place. So I'm interested to see what's going to happen in the next 48 hours. I know you probably couldn't care less because it's college football, but maybe next season.
Ever since you started your show, I've been paying attention to it more and more every week. So this is definitely intriguing information. And it makes me want to ask you another question. With all the vacancies in the NFL right now, do you see any of these fired head coaches wanting to go back to college or to college?
Ooh.
Look,
I'd like to see.
Thinking.
I'd like to see Vrabel go do college coach somewhere. He is really high energy, intense coach. I think him going to college would be a pretty interesting move.
I think we jokingly talked about Rivera in the group chat too.
Oh God, Rivera would be in shambles
right now.
He would be in absolute shambles. Well, and what's even more crazy is that you have the Alabama position that's currently open, which is definitely the number one open coaching spot in college football. But you potentially could have Michigan on there too, with Jim Harbaugh looking to make the jump to the NFL, which all signs are pointing that he is going to be jumping to the NFL. It's just where that landing spot's going to be at this point. If you had to bet right now, Harbaugh's coming out to the NFL, where do you think he's going to land?
I like the Tennessee pick. Man, it all comes down to Tennessee, Atlanta, and Chargers. I can't move. I feel like those are the three main picks to go towards. And then everything else is kind of they're going to be picking up the scraps.
Right. Well, where's Atlanta picking right now? Where are they slated?
Didn't you say 9?
They are Atlanta's 8.
Okay. Patriots are like 3 or 4, so they're
Patriots
up there in draft
3.
pick.
Yeah, so before Atlanta, you have Tennessee at 7, who could draft a quarterback. The Giants could draft a quarterback. Chargers aren't moving on. Arizona, maybe. I mean, they saw a lot of they were definitely relying a lot more on Kyler towards the end of the season. I think
They're
Kyler
pretty
actually
committed to him right now.
Yeah, and I think he's actually getting along with the new head coach out there, which I think most people are surprised about. So I don't see them going after quarterback this year. New England, they're probably going to go after quarterback. Washington, I hope they don't. I think they should just keep.
I think I'm just going with the flow at this point.
I like Sam Howell. That's the thing. It's
I do
like
too.
I really like him. I think giving him another year, build the O-line, try to give him another chance with the next head coach to come in, because like we talk about week in and week out, it seems like every year there's a new generational quarterback that comes out, and having the number 2 overall pick, the upside to hitting on a quarterback at number 2 is drastically slimmer than hitting on some positional or some key player that you actually need.
Yeah, because if you go, like, say the Bears do take Caleb Williams, who hasn't even like announced that he's coming into the NFL draft yet, which is very interesting. And say we do take Drake May, like you just have a taller Sam Howell who still needs experience at that point, because Sam Howell's on year 3 at this point. So it's one of those things where it's like you're still gonna have to do that soft reset. I don't keep up enough to have like the confidence to be like, oh yeah, Drake May does this and he's that, but Williams, May, and Daniels could all potentially go in the first 4 picks.
Right. Well, and then especially with you all in Washington, you have the number 2, and then you have 2 picks in the second round at 35 and 40, which are still
3 in
really
the third, so everything's in the top 100.
Right. So it's like you don't need to reach on a quarterback that early. You could easily wait into the second or third round and get one of these quarterbacks that are going to kind of fall. Maybe Michael Penix Jr. falls down there a little bit, or I don't think Bo Nix is going to get out the first round. I have him going to Atlanta at this point, but there's still plenty of quarterback depth to reach in the third round. Just roll the dice and see what happens.
Yeah, we have a lot of holes that need to be filled up.
Right. Now it's like, now with Bill Belichick no longer in New England, the updated list of the NFL's longest tenured head coaches. Now you got Mike Tomlin there at 17 years. John Harbaugh's at 16 years. Andy Reid is still in there. And you got Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, and Sean McDermott at 7 years. Who do you see Andy Reid being that next head coach that could go down? Or who do you think would leave? Because there's been actually some grumblings that Mike Tomlin might not even come back. He might take a little hiatus like Sean Payton did.
Wait, what do you mean could?
Like Andy Reid, talk about like Andy Reid retiring, or Mike Tomlin actually, the rumors being true that he's going to take a little bit of a mental vacation for a little bit from NFL.
I don't see Reid retiring anytime soon. I just feel like they have something good going on over there, because like the fact that they have no wide receivers and they're still competitive, I think he's still really involved. Honestly, like I hate to say it, but like I'm just surprised he hasn't had any health concerns at this point.
Yeah,
like they kind of go hard with it on the commercials too. So I'm just like, I mean, good for him. Like I don't want him to, but at the same time, like just kind of like wonders like how healthy is he right now? Is he and with how like high strung he is too, and the way that he goes off on the refs.
Right.
It's just it really makes you wonder.
And especially
because that's such a negative thing to think about, but it's just.
Well, and you wouldn't think of this with them both standing next to each other, but Andy Reid's 6 years younger than Bill Belichick. He's only 65. You just wouldn't, like you said. I think I'm more surprised he hasn't had any health concerns. But yeah, I'm interested to see what's going to happen. John Harbaugh, I don't think is going to go anywhere anytime soon. He's still, in my mind, still very young. He's established there in Baltimore. He ain't going nowhere. And then Sean McVay is probably going to leave on his own accord. He is such an LA prima donna. He has been talking about this for years. He got his ring there in LA with Matt Stafford. And then ever since then, there's reports that he might want to step away and go to the booth.
The best part is the fact that he talked Donald into not retiring after the Super Bowl, and then was just like, yeah, I might take a year off.
It's like, take a pick. Take a pick. Kyle Shanahan, he's going to be like his dad. He ain't going anywhere anytime soon.
McDermott might have like a mutual parting ways at some point.
Yeah, I think with how the window is slowly closing, and at this point in Buffalo, there could be a mutual parting the ways. But especially with a coach who's under 50 years old, I still feel that he'd be able to find another job fairly quickly.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh,
it's just one of those things where it's like if they didn't make the Super Bowl the last couple of years, it's a little tough now. But with Diggs being the diva that he is, with all the big contracts that they have, with Josh Allen like throwing more interceptions than touchdowns, like good for them for like being able to win. But you went from like top contender to a wild card pick within a year,
right? And and that's in that maybe you can explain it. Why the hell does Stephon Diggs keep bitching about this? Is it because they haven't been able to actually figure it out? Because if I'm Stephon Diggs, I'm playing with a top 3 NFL quarterback. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to let the team figure it out.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not like he's not getting paid.
It's the same with Jamar Chase too. It's like I'm always fucking open. It's like, okay, but like something systematically is going wrong that the ball's not getting to.
Right.
It's the same with Terry McLaurin, right? Like we finally got the quarterback, and we finally got the offensive coordinator, and we were supposed to be more moving, and we're throwing the ball more, but you had to like force him the ball for the last 2 minutes of the last game to get him his 1,000 yards. Like, how did he get worse with the system that he's been needing? He's just not a little bitch about it.
Well, there's that. Oh, but hey, if anything, this coaching carousel doesn't look like it's going to be stopping anytime soon. If anything, we're probably going to get some kind of update even mid-record at this point. But moving on, it wouldn't be a Ricks versus Gricks episode without Ricks versus Gricks.
Life, death, time, space. Forget everything you think you know. Put your money on the line. It's time for Ricks versus Gricks. Gricks?
Reid's picks versus Griffin's picks, which turned into my picks. And it looks like Zoo's going to be taking over going into next season because the regular season champion for Ricks versus Gricks was the one, the only Zuhair Curry Puff Ali. Congratulations there, Zoo.
I finally won something.
Oh, let me show you if I can find you the fanfare. How about that? I know I'm behind the wheel of Reid's very clean Ferrari, and I can't find any fanfare. So, hey, Reid, put in the fanfare right here when you're editing. Thank you. Appreciate it. But that's right, Zoo. Last week you went 4-2, which moved for the regular season 68-40. Reid and Luis also went 4-2. Reid went 64-44 for the regular season. Luis went 58-50. And Captain Mid himself, Scott Ellia, went 3-3, finishing the season 57-51. Man, I definitely started taking swings for the fences a little bit too much there at the end. I think that's what bit me in the ass. But hey,
I really thought I made some bad picks, especially after the way that the game started off. I was like, oh no.
Oh no, hey, it is what it is. At this point, we're probably gonna have to rename the segment for next season since clearly you've taken over. But that's the regular season. Zoo, we are in playoff time. We are in wild card weekend, and all these games look like.
So are we resetting for playoffs?
I think we should. I do.
Okay.
You know what?
I'm over that.
You vote. You know what? Hey, Reid.
Dad's not here to tell us otherwise. So,
Dad, we're making we're making the call right now that the regular season standings are separate from the playoff standings. What's your vote?
Let's do it.
Cool. Perfect. Awesome.
Everyone's 0-0.
First game on the slate, we got the 11-6 Browns traveling to Houston, who are 10-7. Cleveland are 2.5-point favorites. Yes, even though Dad is not with us right now, he did forward us the notes. So I say we just announce his picks along with it. What do you think?
Let's do it.
We'll save him for last, though. I will go first.
I
think we're all gonna agree.
We're gonna agree on a lot of these.
Listen, the NFL time and time again proves that they are a very scripted sport, entertainment field. And this wildcard weekend alone is just riddled with headlines. You got the Browns and the Texans, which could have been, it ended up being the Deshaun Watson Bowl, but Deshaun Watson's not playing. You got Joe Flacco in there. But if the Browns win, who are they going to end up playing the next round? The Baltimore Ravens. And that storyline is too juicy for the NFL to pass up on. So give me the Browns versus the Texans. Zoo, who do you got?
God, the camera's going to be on Deshaun Watson more than it's going to be like on the game itself. It's going to be kind of annoying, honestly. I feel like the Browns have showed more and more that they can take on a good team, and their defense is relentless. Both of them are actually missing star cornerbacks, so the offense might be able to move the ball a little more. But I think I just have it more on Joe Flacco in that story, and I agree that I do want to see them take on the Ravens. So Browns.
I found the fanfare. There we go, Reid. I found it. Awesome. And then moving forward, we got Reid. Reid is also going with the Browns. His notes: love Stroud and what the Texans have done, and think this will be close. But Kevin Stefanski, these Browns have positive playoff experience, and I think that killer defense will bring out the first-year nerves in these Texans. I will say the Browns defense doesn't travel well, though. I could see with Houston being on their home field, all the big lights, I could see CJ Stroud coming out and upsetting the Browns.
It's a nice stadium.
That's one of the stadiums on my short list that I want to go to, but I'm still going to give it to the Browns. Moving forward, the Dolphins at 11-6, traveling to Kansas City to play the Chiefs, who are also 11-6. Kansas City are 4.5-point favorites. This game is expected to be one of the coldest games in NFL history. I think I saw it like sub-zero temperatures.
Yeah.
And you have a team from South Beach traveling out there. That's not going to be good for them. Before we get the picks, Zoo, how do we feel about Peacock and having these streaming exclusive playoff games? Like, that's the only way you're going to be able to watch this.
I have mixed feelings about it. And it all comes down to people have to pay for cable or some type of service to be able to watch these things anyways. So I know, like, it's weird to have this perspective, but like I follow the Commanders, right?
No.
90% of the time it's going to be on Fox instead of CBS. If Fox had its own subscription for Fox Sports, it would be cheaper for me to pay $8 a month to have that subscription to watch those games, and then maybe do like a free trial of Paramount, or just pay for the month or something to do that, and then just pay for Peacock for a month to do that. And you're only paying like $10 a month, maybe 20 when you have to like switch services. I think that's why Prime was as successful as it was, because a lot of people already have it, but they would watch Thursday night games because people don't want to pay for cable anymore.
Right.
So I get that it's annoying and they want people to sign up for these subscriptions, and this could lead to this and that. But if it leads away from having to pay $60-$70 for Hulu Live or cable, and I get that there's the bootleg sites and this and that, but that's not for everyone. So from that financial perspective, like, I know it's annoying and some people just don't cancel, but when you think about only having to pay up to $20 a month and then being able to cancel all these services when football is over, it's not that bad.
Right. And my thing is, like, I already subscribe to Peacock. Like, it doesn't make a difference to me either way. Because even if I don't have cable, I have a couple of the streaming services. I guess that's me just getting Father of the Year award. But even if I can't catch a game on one of these streaming services, I'm one of those little angry little pirates out there that'll find a link and I'll just watch the game and stream it quote unquote illegally. So it's like, there's workarounds, but like you said, there's a lot of people who aren't comfortable doing that, or who don't know exactly where to go, or are a little bit more sketched out. But yeah, you're going to see a little bit of an influx, but most folks after the season's over, they're just going to cancel their subscription. So it's not like Peacock and NBC are going to be getting more money. You'll have a couple people who will forget to do it, but after a month or two, they're like, oh crap, I forgot to cancel my $10 subscription. Let me go do that real fast.
And if it's something that they do just for the playoff games, like, anybody could just go to their local bar. Like, I doubt people in Kansas really want to do that if it's like negative 30 degrees outside, but
right.
I don't think it means too much to just be able to, go to a bar or go to somebody else's house that has it, or
right.
Of that sort. Yeah.
Hey, if anything, it's not going to get any better. But let's move forward and actually make these picks. I am going to go with if it wasn't going to be so damn cold, I probably would be more enticed to picking the Dolphins, but it's hard to pick against the Chiefs in Arrowhead, in playoff. in the playoffs, you got Andy Reid, you got Patrick Mahomes, who are getting very upset. I think this is a down year for them, even with them being 11-6. But I can't bet against them at home during the playoffs. So give me the Chiefs. Zoo, who do you got?
Yeah. Like with the snow, I feel like Achan's actually going to make a difference in the game, and that's what's going to keep it tight. But with them not being used to the cold, and the Chiefs obviously thriving there and having a great fan base, I think that's going to be a huge, huge factor. It's just going to be so loud and uncomfortable for the Dolphins. It's going to be an ugly match. It's going to be a low-scoring match, but I think the Chiefs have it. I was about to say the Patricks.
The Patricks. They should just change the name to the Patricks at this point.
Might as well.
And one extra layer to the game that I completely forgot to acknowledge is the fact that this is a Tyreek Hill returning game. Reid is going against the grain. He's actually going with the Dolphins. He noted that the cold will be a bitch, but he thinks Jalen Ramsey will proves the investment was worth it, and the Dolphins offense will outpace just enough to get a close win. Tyreek Hill will go off and also walk around the stadium shirtless during pregame just to prove a point for social media. I could see it. I could see Tyreek Hill going off in Kansas City. I still don't believe there's a lot of bad blood there. Am I missing something?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just more the narrative.
Right. Moving forward to what I think is going to be like kind of the meh game of this slate. Steelers at 10-7 traveling to Buffalo to play the Bills, who are 11-6. Buffalo are 10-point favorites. It's a no-brainer. It's the Bills. If the Steelers win, I will refuse to make my picks against them forever. I will always pick the Steelers in any game from here on out if they beat the Buffalo Bills on the road in the playoffs. Zoo, who do you have?
Yeah, starting Mason Rudolph and not having TJ Watt, I think I got to go with the Bills.
And Reid's also going with the Bills. His only note, Bill's going to whoop that ass. Moving on, the McCarthy Bowl. That's right. We got the Green Bay Packers at 9-8, who are on fire to end the season, traveling down to Dallas to play the Cowboys, who are 12-5. Dallas are 7.5-point favorites. My gut is telling me to go with the Cowboys. Don't be risky here. Take them, but I can't help it. I love a long shot, and I hate the Cowboys. And Jordan Love helped me so much down the stretch in our fantasy football league, which I have now. And it's convenient that Reid isn't here to celebrate my fantasy football championship. I just want to point that out real quick. So congratulations to me.
Getting over it.
But give me the Packers on the road to stun the Cowboys. Jerry Jones will be firing Mike McCarthy that night, and you will see Bill Belichick traveling down to Dallas, putting on that 5-pointed star hat to be the new head coach. Who do you have, Zoo? The voice of reason.
I love all that. I really want to ride with you on it, but Cowboys at home is just too much of a nightmare for any team. That defense is going to be all over Jordan Love. Yeah, I gotta go with that word.
Fine. Well, you're not the only Commanders fan picking them, because Reid is also going with the Cowboys. His notes don't think this one will be that close either. Dallas will blow up for a big win that Mike McCarthy really needs. Well, I guess we'll find out what's going to happen, Reid. How about that? We got another revenge game on the slate. We got the Rams at 10-7 traveling to Detroit to play the Lions, who are 12-5. Detroit are 3-point home favorites. We got Matthew Stafford in the playoffs going back home to face Detroit, who are in their first playoff game in, what was the number I saw? Like 20 plus years. When's the last Detroit playoff game?
91?
What Google swore. Oh boy. Yep. The Lions are making their first playoff appearance since 2016 and haven't won a postseason game since 1991.
Oh, okay,
and you know what? And that streak's going to keep going. Give me the Rams on the road. I want to see Matthew Stafford just completely light up the Detroit Lions. Now, I don't have the Rams going very far in the playoffs, but I do have Matthew Stafford sticking it to Detroit one last time. Zoo, who do you got?
I'm really struggling with this one. Lions at home. The fans have actually been showing up. It's honestly amazing that the Rams got in. They just kind of had like this last minute push. But I think the Lions playing a lot of their starters last week, and Laporta and St. Brown and somebody else all getting hurt might be a big factor in this game, and I might have to take the Rams offense just because of that.
Hey, that's right. Yeah, ride the Scott train. Let's go. Let's see if Reid's going to be doing it. Reid.
Is there a short train?
It's a very short change. Ask my ex-wife. But Reid is going with the Detroit Lions. Wow. His only note's gonna be tight. Stafford will make them work for it, but I think Dan Campbell gets his team hyped for this first home playoff game in 30 years and leads some big plays on both sides to clinch a win. Well, all right, Reid. I guess he's buying that. He's buying that team. I'm still not totally sold on Detroit at this point, but hey, I might be wrong. And the game of the week, got the Philadelphia Eagles at 11-6 versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 9-8. Philly are 3-point favorites traveling on the road. I am going with the wild card warriors himself, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, to upset the Eagles at home. Now, this is another team that won't go very far in the playoffs, but the Eagles have been skittering the last half of the season. And fuck the Eagles. I give them nothing like I give the Cowboys. I look forward to this upset victory there in Tampa Bay. Zuda, who do you have?
Let's hope that the curse doesn't ride into the playoffs and that it's a mid-season thing only, because I, too, am going with the Bucs. I feel like the defense has a lot to work with. I feel like their offense is productive, and there's just too many injuries in the offense right now. I don't think Mariota can push the ball that well. Jalen has hurts in his finger. AJ Brown isn't healthy, and I feel like it's just a very frustrated locker room. I don't think they have any positive vibes right now. I think they're very irritated with the situation that they're in, and the fact that like people are actually calling for the coach to get fired and everything is really fascinating as well. So
yep,
there's just a lot of bad juju over there, and I know that the playoffs is a whole different game, but I'm not sure they get it together for this.
No, and neither does Reid. And if history is any indication of what the listening audience should be doing this week, is to fade us on the Bucs and bet on the Eagles, because Reid is also going with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. His only note was every wild card weekend has huge shock wins, and while I don't think this one will be that big of a shock with Philly's injuries and just the spiral the team has been on in general, I think Baker Mayfield does just enough along with a still sturdy Bucs defense to end Philly's season early and potentially get Nick Sirianni booted. And bold-ass prediction, Belichick rolls into town. Wow.
That's an interesting prediction.
That is an interesting take. I didn't even think about that with Belichick potentially taking over there in Philly. I think it was already shocking that people were trying to link him down there to Atlanta to try to quell the 28-3 comeback win that the New England Patriots had in Atlanta. But hey,
so one of the reasons that the Commanders fan base and even beat reporters are saying that Belichick wouldn't work in Washington is because he wants to have control of everything. And I know he brought up in the interview, like with New England, that there's a possibility that he could like relinquish some of that. Yeah. But one of the big assets that works for the Eagles is how well their GM does.
Harry Roseman, yeah.
Yeah, so to be able to, hire somebody that could possibly conflict with that might be an issue. So I'm not sure if he lands because of that alone, unless he really, really wants to change and wants to relinquish some of that power. But another thing that Reid brought up was the surprise wins. I think if there is a surprise win, it's going to be the Steelers or the Packers. I don't think I'd be as shocked with this one.
Yeah, I would be more shocked. I think if any upset were to happen, it would be that Steelers game. I don't think anybody's betting on the Steelers. I mean, like I said, they're 9.5-point underdogs. Last I had checked on DraftKings, and they are just inept on both sides of the ball. TJ Watt will not be playing in that game either, so I would be very shocked if the Steelers won. But that is Ricks versus Gricks for this week. Zoo, are you ready to hear what my Detroit Lions Calvin Ridley memorial betting slip is going to be for this week?
You got some Eagles winning on there just to conflict with our picks?
Oh, I can't do that. No, we are. What we're doing this week is we are just taking these Ricks versus Gricks picks and we are just rolling it into a 6-pick parlay. Putting $10 down. Let's see if we can win some money. Just to reiterate, we got the Browns versus the Texans. We're going with the Browns on the road. We've got the Dolphins on the road versus the Chiefs. We're going with the Chiefs at home. It just makes sense. Like I said, Steelers traveling to Buffalo. I'd be very shocked if they overcome that underdog point spread. Give me the Bills straight up. Packers traveling to Dallas versus the Cowboys. I give the Cowboys nothing. I trust Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur there in Green Bay, and I want to see Mike McCarthy get fired the next day, so give me Green Bay. You got the prima donna himself in Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford traveling to Detroit to play the Lions. Give me the Rams. And last but not least, to round out the parlay, the Eagles traveling down to Tampa Bay, and the Buccaneers are going to walk away with that victory. Like I said, folks, this is a $10 wager that will win us $620.81.
You?
Man, I know I'm excited.
Mooching good on Tuesday.
Oh, we better. Oh, and speaking about winnings, Reid, I'm still waiting for my winnings from the fantasy football. I haven't. Just saying.
Just gonna have like a helmet ceremony on here.
We should have a helmet. A crowning ceremony. That's what we should have. And you know where that thing's gonna go? It's gonna go. Oh, that's the wrong side. It's gonna go right there, right in the background, just so that way Reid can see it.
I was gonna say it would definitely stand out sitting on that little drawer set right there.
Right here, yeah.
Not on the other one by the TV. Could like bounce.
Oh, right there.
Yeah.
Just put it right next to the TV.
Or it's like you set it on your desk at the beginning of every
or
show.
just wear it every week.
What could go wrong?
Well, that is it for this week's installment of Ricks versus Gricks, folks. Zoo, thank you so much for joining. And what was, I think, the best Ricks versus Gricks episode. Is it a coincidence that Reid wasn't here? Maybe. But I think this is the best one yet.
So much dynamic vocals for this.
But Zoo, I am not as well versed into where people can find you like Reid is. So remind the folks where they can find you if they want to know what the best curry recipe is.
Well, we made the new announcement the other day that started a new business called Upright Exposures. So if you are in the Hampton Roads area and are listing a house or know someone that is, and they are being blasphemous and using cell phone pictures, be sure to look at uprightexposures.com so that you can check out my services and hire me to take better than cell phone pictures, or just follow me on Instagram for the support and just look at cool houses in the area. For podcasting, check out Animation Deliberation, where we cover a bunch of animated content. We're going to be having a What If coming up soon. We just finished up Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2, and just whatever else comes up in the works.
Awesome. Thank you, Zoo. And folks, don't miss out on any of the excitement. Make sure to follow us on all the Instagram and Facebook socials. You can find all your college sports updates at 323 College Shame Day, and all updates at 323 Reid. Subscribe to the 323 Network on YouTube and catch our podcast on all major podcast platforms. Like we learned on Sunday, Zoo, you use Apple Podcast? Was that who it was?
I do.
Wow. See, folks, it's everywhere.
We're here. We're there. We're every fucking where. 323. 323.
You know what? Reid, isolate that and remix it and run it back right now. Thank you, folks, and stay safe.
323. 323. 323. 323.